Weird.
We can't all make declarations of hatred at the same time. Hi, everybody.
There are dozens of us. Dozens!
你好中国只叫希腊，我爱更尊重中。石油账。
Alson, help me up onto his casket so I can dance on it.
I don't care.
But how did you ever find us?
Oh, easy. We just read the screenplay you left us.
Glove gold! Glove gold! Glove gold!
You get nothing! You lose! Good day, sir!
I'll help you. Everything is sexist. Everything is racist. Everything is homophobic. And you have to point it all out.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
Huh? Zappuccino.
All right, it is Thursday night in Tooney Town, my favorite night of the week, because it is time for everyone's favorite pop culture podcast. It is time for Tooney Talk TV. Folks, my name is Marvin, and I am the Movie Monster, and welcome back to the Tooney Town TV channel, where we are thrilled to bring you another week of nonstop pop culture conversation. Now, I am fresh out of the movie theater. I just saw Lilo and Stitch, and later on tonight, I will be joining them over on the Pro Show to talk a bit about that movie and give my review there. I can just tell you guys very simply, I had a positive reaction to it. There are issues, but I really actually liked it, and I will be giving my full thoughts over there later. But we've got a lot to talk about because Marvel is tearing itself apart, and you know Warner Brothers is literally junk at this point, and yeah, there's a whole lot to discuss. But I can't do it on my own. I need the all-star panel. I need the Tooney Town Titans. So Titans, go! I feel like the Titans Go reference is lost on you.
I did play Lego DC Supervillains,
Yeah,
and I
it
did have to
doesn't.
play as Teen Titans, so I'm not completely blind.
It doesn't count. So
I know who the characters are from it.
yeah, all right, fine. What is the shirt that you're wearing here tonight?
Oh, No
Everyone
Doubt.
always likes to. Oh, everyone always loves to comment on your shirt. So
I like it. I try to wear music when I can.
I mean, isn't it usually music?
Usually, sometimes it's like Harry Potter or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, tonight we're going to be talking about a lot of Marvel stuff, so I hope you're ready for that.
You're tearing me apart, Marvel.
Yeah. You're going down a path I can't follow. And here, my Martin Stone, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, hi, Marvin.
Hey, Martin, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well.
Fresh off your excellent article on That Park Place that came out this morning around 7:10 a.m. about all of the insanity that is going on with Greta Gerwig's Narnia, which we will be talking about here on the show today.
Oh, good, because I read that article.
Yeah, I would hope so. I would hope so. I read it too. Kevin Apollo is running late, guys, and Nolan Thunder is off at the opening day of Epic Universe here in Orlando, so I will actually be seeing Nolan, I think, this weekend. I think we have it set up to. Actually, no, I'm not gonna. Oh, I'm gonna have to cancel on Nolan. That stinks. I just realized that it's because it's Saturday night's main event on Saturday night, and we're supposed to do a live stream on Tooney Town Wrestling. So I'm gonna have to tell Nolan that I can't make it. Oh, that stinks. All right, I'll have to give him that message in a little bit. Lauren is here.
Lauren.
Oh, it's Marvin's fault.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
It is my fault this time. Well, I blame Triple H. Don't blame me. It's not my fault. You know, I didn't put Saturday.
You don't get to fob this off on the wrestler. You didn't pay attention to your schedule.
This is true. I did not.
That's right. Give it to him.
I knew we had the AEW pay-per-view on Sunday, but I didn't realize that Saturday night's main event snuck up so quickly. So yeah, it is. It's a whole. It's all big. That stinks because I was really looking forward to seeing him.
You know, you may kill this poor vegan boy. He's already going to be weak from lack of sustenance, and now his last bit of support is abandoning him. I am ashamed of you.
He's not even here to defend himself.
That's okay.
No, it's not.
Makes it easier.
That's what I'm here for. I'm standing in for Nolan. I don't know if I can talk to you tonight, Marvin.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Lauren. Kevin Apollo is running late, but he will be here, guys. But just so you guys know, this is a show that is made for you and funded by you. We count on your generous super chats to keep the and gifted memberships to keep the lights on around here. Hope you guys have been enjoying the content we've been posting this week. We are back to regular videos. Just this week we posted a video on the Ezra Miller resurgence, and today we posted one about Peepaw himself, Pedro Pascal. So if you guys haven't seen that yet, and you probably haven't because they're not doing that great, mostly because the YouTube algorithm is not used to me putting out regular videos anymore. So please make sure you go take a look at them, give them a like, give them a share, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I
swear, if I hear you say Peepaw one more time, or if that other clip shows up in this show, I am gone for the night.
No, I don't have that song.
Don't push it.
You better not have that song.
I don't have that song.
It's raining men.
I can't play that much of it because we'll get copyright struck. But
you ever thought about how It's Raining Men and Let the Bodies Hit the Floor are basically the same song?
I have never thought about that.
But now I'm going to, Martin. Thank you.
Hold on. No, go ahead. Justify.
Oh, just from two different perspectives. If it's raining men, they're gonna hit the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. And I guess I can Let the Bodies Get the Floor. You would get absolutely soaking wet with blood.
Yeah.
Wow, he made it extra dark.
Wow. Well, I think Disturbed would want it that way. I was an angsty teen in the aughts. I
don't think that was Disturbed.
Let the Bodies Hit the Floor? I'm pretty sure it was.
I want to say it's Drowning Pool. Let the chat tell me. I'm too lazy to look it up. The chat can tell me.
Why did I think that was Disturbed then?
I mean, to be fair, you're in the right.
It's kind of the same thing. I think you're right. It is Drowning Pool.
Yeah. I think it was all just like one band under different names, kind of like how when you order from DoorDash, there's like 15 different kitchens that are all the same place.
This is why I'm like the secret weapon at music trivia. My brain just knows all of this stuff. I shudder to think what I have forgotten.
I would be as useless as you at Star Wars trivia in music trivia. I would be the worst at it.
I'm going with my friend to Taylor Swift trivia, and I will be that amount useful at it.
I was about to say, you better not know about Taylor Swift trivia.
I'll know nothing. I could be like 1989. Travis Kelce. Just shout that out.
That's the song about the guy that she was dating, but now is not dating, and it didn't end well.
Which one?
Right. I'm just saying, I think we need to hear from her ex-boyfriends before we choose sides. There's two sides to every story.
There's three sides to every story.
Oh, one side, the other side, and the truth. I get it. I get it, Trish. That's deep. It's philosophical.
What I do.
Regina Sharp for I'm out of order here. Regina Sharp for $5 says, hungry, too tired for a full meal? Try I can't believe I didn't have this ready to go. Try brand dinner pills, and then also 2 of 4 Glom Glow brand dinner pills come with all the flavors of a 6-course meal in one little pill. Brought to you by Glomgold Food Brands, where it's always Glomgold, and it always will be. Oh, good. See, that's a different one that I can play, which is in a completely different spot than the normally played Glomgold clip. Which where the heck is it? Sorry, guys. I need to reorganize these clips into a.
Because I'm Flintheart Glomgold, and I always will be.
Warning, Glomgold brand dinner pills have no nutritional value. Side effects include turning into a blueberry, void where prohibited, Burma shave. I'm going to pretend that I got a lot of that, Regina Sharp, because it was a generous super chat. So thank you very, very much.
Burma shave was a really famous advertising campaign on old state highways.
Ah, okay. That makes sense. You and Kimia for $5 says, I'm here for Trish and
Glomgold.
Trish, is it good to know that you're held by the audience in the same esteem as Flintheart Glomgold? You're muted, Trish. Curse you, StreamYard.
Sorry, I have to have the chat open in a completely other window, and I try to mute it when I type so you don't hear. Yes, I know what Glomgold means to everybody. So
yeah, I mean it's a pretty,
it's an honor.
It's pretty big. Yeah, it's a pretty big honor.
Alson, help me up onto his casket so I can dance on it.
And my personal favorite.
I defeated Scrooge McDuck! We were on the same team.
I like how you're doing we were on the same team.
He's my favorite part of that.
Dragon Queen for $2. Hi, I finally caught one of you. Dragon Queen, I am super psyched that you are here. Thank you very much for joining us here tonight, Dragon Queen. Good to see you, my friend. John Williams for $1.99 says, I have nothing funny to say. This is Nolan's fault. Is it Nolan's fault that you have nothing funny to say? I guess. Or I don't know. That doesn't seem like something we could pin on Nolan, but whatever.
Oh, I see. Oh, it was no one's fault. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Well then, problem solved.
Oh my goodness.
Snarky.
Yeah. BPE for $20 and no message. The BPE will be BPE. Thank you very much for all that you do. Andre Adams for $4.99 says, my sources are reporting that Rainbow Glow Sticks Inc. does not endorse Pedro Pascal's abuse of their fine products. Lauren, are you happy to hear that from Rainbow Glow Sticks Inc.?
I don't care what their stance is on it. I'm just sick to death of this being overused. I know. I almost had an aneurysm last night.
It was last night. It was overused to the point where I never wanted to see it again. I've been putting it
all right. At least that was a better music. I'll accept that one.
Don't you do that to Belinda Carlisle?
It is really fun to put that to different music.
No, I didn't mute. I thought I was. I'm never going to be able to keep track of the muting tonight. Apparently, I was like,
Why?
I need to unmute to chime in about Belinda Carlisle, and then I saw I wasn't.
What do you have to say about her?
I was just going to agree with Martin.
Okay.
Don't do that. Don't besmirch her good name.
I don't besmirch anything. I'm not a besmircher.
With that was besmirching if I ever saw besmirching. You besmircher.
We actually put it to the Tooney Talk Wrestling theme on Tuesday, and it actually worked really, really well. As weird as it was. Hold on. Let me dig that up real quick. I am waiting for it to here. I can actually play this one because it's not copywritten music. Like it actually, like his little hip gyrations actually go with the beat. No,
that's not a positive.
I try not to look at it. So
it's like this. It's like the sun. You can't stare at it. Mike Glass with 10 Tooney Town TV memberships.
Ooh.
Thank you so much, Mike Glass. That is very generous. We speak your name, my friend. We speak your name. Hold on. I got to play some kind of clip for you for that. It's a, oh, you know what? Here we go. One of my favorite running South Park jokes is the PC babies. All right. John Williams from 199 says canceling on Nolan sounds good. No, Nolan's fun to hang out with in person. And as long as you're not driving down a dark, winding mountain in the pouring rain with him in the middle of the night.
I actually legitimately kind of wish I was in that car because that sounds like a fun time.
I do too. You would have been a calming presence.
Oh, I thought you were saying you wished you were in the car. I was like, you were in the car.
No, I wish. So Lauren's son was in the car with us, but Lauren was not in the car with us because Lauren went in the other car.
Yeah, I missed it, but it sounds like it was a good time.
It does, except maybe not for Marv.
No.
I feel like we could rewrite a good 60s or 50s teenage tragedy song about Marvin and Nolan being in a car together on a mountain road.
To be fair, Vash was there too. So Vash was like the calming presence. Vash was the one that was like, "It's okay, man. You're doing good. You're doing good." Like, and then Nolan sitting there back like skinwalkers. How about that? And I'm like, what?
I want the track to be titled "Angels Flying Too High Over the Mountain Ridges."
Oh gosh.
Okay, we can work with that.
John Williams of 499 says, "Cope, jobber monster. Your indie trash vegan friend weekend is ruined. Da-na-na, da-na-na, me." There you go, Trish. Some Triple H for you. John Williams of 499 says, "Taylor Swift used to babysit a wild slapnuts. Jeff Jarrett's kids." Yes, she did. She actually, what did you know that, Trish, that she was Jeff Jarrett's babysitter? For his kids?
I think you mentioned it once, and that's how I found it out.
Yeah.
I don't see that coming up at trivia.
Oh gosh, what is that?
Someone tells me no.
Just watch. That's going to be the tiebreaker round at the end.
All B booty bees and bacon with big B's for $2 says, "America, F yeah," and my GF said hello.
Hello, girlfriend.
Hello to you, GF.
Hey.
B. Oh my goodness. All right, so we're gonna take a break there. We gotta get to your super chats, guys, in between stories as we go through. And we do break for $50 or more. So if you send in a super chat of $50 or more, we do stop and we talk about whatever it is you want to say. So you have the ability to bring the show to a screeching halt if you want. Normally, that is only a reserved for Nolan, but you guys can do it too. I'm kidding. I don't know why I'm hitting him when he's not here. I feel bad. But all right, let's talk about some pop culture here, guys. First thing we have to do, it's something of a bit of a correction from last week because a quote was running around and it was all over social media. So I don't blame anyone for believing that it was real, but we need to set the record straight here because the good name of one Rachel Brosnahan, Lois Lane actress, was besmirched with this fake quote that was making the rounds on social media. So a fake quote attributing to Superman actress Rachel Brosnahan is making the rounds online, and it's spreading fast enough to warrant some serious fact checking. The viral claim suggests that Brosnahan, who plays Lois Lane in James Gunn's upcoming DC reboot, said Superman is, quote, not for everyone and would anger the same old people who don't support ideas of progress and empowerment. She then went on to warn that James Gunn warned them all at the start of the project that they wouldn't have the support of half the audience, but told them that that was not the better half. And she added that it's not for men or women with 60s style ideas. That's fake. That never happened. She never said that. No interview, no press event, no official source confirms it. It's not in Vanity Fair, Entertainment Weekly, Good Housekeeping, or anywhere else that Brosnahan has done press recently, nor does it appear on any social media accounts attributed to her. It's a fabrication, one that seems designed to spark outrage and division among fans and poison conservative sentiment against the upcoming film. Worse still, the quote isn't just made up. It actually contradicts what Brosnahan actually said in a verified interview with Good Housekeeping. In that feature, published April 12th, Brosnahan described the tone of the movie in far more optimistic terms. She said there's something in it for everyone before calling it the hopeful Superman. She even stressed that it's hopeful without being overly earnest and saccharine. I'm excited to be putting something hopeful out into the world in the middle of these pretty tricky and tumultuous times. It's hopeful, but it's also entertaining. It has all the things you expect and want from a big superhero movie, and then also a lot of heart too. All right, well, that is a much less divisive statement, guys. So does that help you, Lorne? Because I know you were the one that was scared off by that quote. Does that help you at all, knowing that quote is fake?
Yes and no. I still have some misgivings about what looks like the direction and some of the cinematography of the film. However, the thing that came out with Corin Sweat, with him being a dyed-in-the-wool geek, actually kind of, I'm impressed. And I would love to have a good Superman movie. I would be really happy to have a good Superman movie. I don't know that I trust that this is going to be it, but I sure hope it is, because I think that we deserve a good Superman movie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I'm actually trying to find that Corin Sweat thing right now. I think I have it on my other X account. So we are currently working on an article for that. Park Place 4 at Raven is currently working on it for me. But it definitely brought up a lot of good feelings about this movie for a lot of people, I think. Nope, that's Pedro Pascal. Let's see here. Nope, you know what? It's a lot of Pedro Pascal. Okay, I can find it.
I think if James Gunn can pull this off, I'm going to look at him as a very different director, much more talented than I like him, and he's good at what he does. But to really change into something that's this earnest, or as earnest as Superman should be, that's a different level for him that we haven't really seen him do.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. 100%. Okay, good. I found it. Here it is. So here's our new Superman, David Corin Sweat.
When I was younger, I would get Hayden Christensen, which I really liked. Anakin Skywalker, Star Wars.
Okay, right.
He's kind of a big deal. Okay, if there's one kind of character I could play in a movie in my life, what would it be? A Star Wars character. You want to be more specific and get the points? Oh, a Jedi? Yeah. Jedi is correct.
Cool. What would your character's 3 favorite movies be?
Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
Old Yeller, but he turns the movie off before the end.
Star Wars?
Books to recommend: the Star Wars X-Wing series. If you Google X-Wing Star Wars Rogue Squadron, there's like 10 books in the series. Gosh, they're good.
Lauren, that's a big one. That's a big one that won me over.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and that proves that this guy is not faking. You know, it would be real easy to just say generically Star Wars novels. He pointed out a particular series that also happens to be one of the most popular series, and he's completely geeking out about it. And this next part too. It's like, this genuinely made me happy. You hope that people that are in these kind of projects are not in their own minds above all of this. A lot of times I think they are. They're not really fans. They're just doing a job. This guy genuinely loves this stuff, and that's a good sign. The other thing that's a good sign, I don't know if you have that as well, is the toy commercial that we saw yesterday.
I just showed that to my kids.
I'm going to pull that up. I love that toy commercial. We're going to pull it up in a second. Let's hear him do this.
The Death Star is in range. You may fire when ready. I have you now. You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home. Stand by. Stand by. Great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million. The Force will be with you always.
I mean, my first love of space was the opening of Star Wars. You know, when Luke walks out of his house after his uncle says, you got to stay on another season, and he goes up to the dune, and he looks out over the 2 suns, and John Williams comes in. Dun, dun.
He's getting misty-eyed talking about this. Like talking about the music and the swell of the music. I can't keep playing it because the music we're already playing with fire. So, but I mean, like that's amazing. And that to me, like, look, the one thing I said the other night when we were talking about this is we love it when one of our own gets to experience the dream, right? I mean, it's why people love David Tennant as the Doctor in Doctor Who, because we all knew that this was his dream, that he wanted to be the Doctor since he was a little kid. There is a letter that made the rounds that Peter Capaldi had sent into William Hartnell when he was a kid, basically asking the Doctor if he could go on adventures with him. And then he became the he became the 12th incarnation of the Doctor. And I mean, you feel good about these. Henry Cavill, perfect example of, Henry Cavill built his own gaming PC. Henry Cavill hand paints Warhammer miniatures. Like, Henry Cavill is a dyed in the womb geek. I mean, he is absolutely one of us. And part of you also hopes that if Corn Sweat is as big of a fan as he seems to be, that maybe he wouldn't go for a bad script. Like maybe he would be like, oh, well, the script isn't Superman, I don't want to do it.
Well, I think a big part of my fear here is that it's not just Superman. You've got Mr. Terrific, you got Guy Gardner, you got all these other characters. Yeah. I just want Superman. I just want to see a good Superman movie. And I'm afraid if they're doing a bigger ensemble cast, I'm not sure that I'm going to be as into that as I would hope to be. I'm hoping they prove me wrong. I would be so happy to be wrong, but time will tell.
Yeah. All right. So let's have a look at this toy commercial, which I love for so many reasons.
Superman movie. Watch out! A giant kaiju monster is destroying the city. This looks like a job for Superman. He flies in with a powerful punch. Ew! Slime explosion! Uh-oh, the kaiju is reloading for a bigger battle. Call in the Justice Gang. Get him, Green Lantern! Mr. Terrific teams up. Hawk Girl soars in to help Superman save the day. Boom! Slime time! Superman versus Kaiju Battle Pack. Other figures each sold separately. Superman movie rated PG-13.
That's awesome.
My son was actually asking me, is this the sort of stuff you guys watched all the time? Like,
yes. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of those 90s Power Rangers toy commercials. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
They were so corny and so wonderful. Some of my favorite stuff. But I'm also very convinced that the people at Saban weren't actually never actually watched Power Rangers and had no idea about anything that there was to do with it. You know what? Here, I'll show you. Like, this is what it reminded me of.
It's the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, teenage defenders of Earth. The Power Rangers are driven by the power of the ancient dinosaurs. Lately, evil space aliens have become a real safety hazard. Earth's only hope, the Power Rangers.
Oh, yeah? No one can stop us. Just let them try.
Okay. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, too hot to handle.
That's a classic toy commercial.
I love that. Lately, it's been a problem.
Well, so you know what? It was those Power Ranger commercials, toy commercials came out before the Power Rangers aired, I remember. That's why they're explaining the entire concept of them in those commercials, because they released the toy line before they released the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes
Who was
sense.
the mummy dude?
That was King Sphinx.
I want to see more of King Sphinx. I liked him.
He is in one episode. In the Japanese version, he's like a game show host. It's actually kind of weird. But in the English version, yeah, King Sphinx is a major villain in an episode. I forget the name of the episode, but it's a Jason centric one. But
they made a toy for one guy, like one episode.
Yeah, because he's kind of got like an iconic look. Like they made a bunch of
some more.
That's not their choice. They had to go with what the with what the Japanese show did. So I think it was just like, hey, this design of a toy is testing well with kids. So, let's go with it.
Look, they already had to make 5 spandex costumes. They don't have the budget to do anything else.
They didn't even do that. You didn't actually see them in the suits until the second season, which was like 60 episodes in. Like, that was just how little, but they didn't even spring to get them the actual costumes. You never saw them like with the helmets off or anything. It was just the Japanese footage. Saban had
how cheap it was.
Haim Saban had a very Haim Saban had a very specific business model, which was spend absolutely no money and just rake it all in. Like he certainly didn't spend it on the talent, because those poor kids, they were the biggest stars in the world at one point, and they were making $1,000 a week, not even working all year round. So
that's crazy.
Yep. Yeah, he took advantage of them. And then when they asked for more money, he was like, "You are all of you replaceable." So, and just kicked them right out. You know what? Let's have a look-see at this article by our friend Martin Stone over from That Park Place, written by the one and only Martin Stone. Martin, do you want to walk us through this one?
Sure. Yeah. What are the points you want to hit on it?
Just what you think are the big points here that we need to get across. So basically, like, they've confirmed essentially that Meryl Streep is playing Aslan.
Yeah. So it is important to note that Netflix has declined to comment about any of the casting.
Right.
But the rumor that's been persistent for months, that I reported on months ago, that Meryl Streep is being cast as Aslan, that has not been challenged by Netflix at all. It has been maintained throughout all of Hollywood Reporter's coverage of this, and they've been pretty good about this one, almost as if it's you can just place a story in there.
Yeah, well, you know what? Here's the thing: when the Hollywood Reporter reports it, it's pretty much true,
right?
Because they're getting their they are getting the information usually directly from the studios, and this is the way that the studio could trickle things out, test the waters a little bit. And my gosh, if they're testing the temperature on this one, they're probably seeing a lot of people very angry.
Right, and that's one of the things I don't get about this. Greta Gerwig is, she's got her political bend, and I think that she wanted Barbie to be a feminist anthem, and yet somehow the incel men really latched onto Ken.
Yeah,
that I think that sticks in her craw. But I made
that point on the HCast earlier, where I was like, I think that she's out for revenge at this point, because she's so angry that like people like sympathize with the Kens in the Barbie movie. Because they were legitimately a oppressed people that rose up against their oppressors and ended up getting oppressed once again, and that was supposed to be the happy ending. So
sorry, I had to cough. Yeah, I agree, but at the same time, she has often talked about how she has reverence for the Narnia series, and I don't think she's looking to ruin it for anybody. So I'm intrigued to see what she does. She's clearly a competent director. If her putting this movie in IMAX, as it looks like she was the one who insisted it from the reporting we've seen out there. Go ahead.
I've heard about like part of the ways that you would assume that she latched onto these books as a child. I read a study once about the way that boys and girls play with toys when they're kids, where a boy will play with a toy. Like if you're playing with the Shredder from Turtles, he's the Shredder. That's it. He has his specific role, and he doesn't step outside of it. When you play as the Shredder, he is just the Shredder. He's the enemy of the Ninja Turtles. He works with Krang. He's the master of Bebop and Rocksteady. When a girl would pick up a Shredder toy, and maybe she picks up Krang, and she's like, well, Shredder's Krang's baby now. Like they change the story of what the toy is to fit their narrative.
Yeah.
I know
I've watched my daughters do this.
I was about to ask, like, as somebody who, is a girl dad, have you watched that happen?
Yeah. My sons will be playing with something, and the youngest will come over and want to join her. She's in kindergarten now. And suddenly they're playing with something the way it's supposed to be played with in their minds. and she comes over and wants to start inventing new relationships between these characters, and like, no, he's on this team. You know, but no, they're a family now, but they're not a family. They just work together.
Right. Absolutely. Exactly. And maybe Greta Gerwig, when she read Narnia, read Aslan as a female.
That's possible, but as I point out in the article here, Aslan has several names.
Yes.
One of them is son of the Emperor Beyond the Sea.
Yeah.
Another is the King of Kings. And
hey, somebody else had that name, didn't he?
Yeah, there was one guy, and
some Jewish guy, right?
Yeah, this rabbi, obscure dude.
Yeah.
But funny enough, C.S. Lewis was aware of him and wrote this entire series as if that man had the appearance of a lion in a mystical, magical realm.
Yes, guys, we're being coy here. It's Jesus. Aslan is very much the Christ-like figure. Now, also, Martin, what you noticed here is that, like, you know, things like Carey Mulligan playing Mabel Kirk, that pretty much confirms that this is the magician's nephew, as we have been led to believe.
Right, and Daniel Craig as Andrew Ketterly, he is the titular magician.
Yeah. So, and Daniel Craig, by the way, would have been probably a good Aslan. Just throwing that out there, but so here on That Park Place, you said, if the casting proves to be true, then our earlier speculation that the first adaptation of this series would be The Magician's Nephew is all but confirmed, with no word as of yet about the two protagonists, Diggory Kirk and Polly Plummer. Given the spectacular magic described in the book, Netflix's decision to release this movie on IMAX screen should give fans hope on seeing a faithful adaptation of the music of creation, which causes the land to undulation and bring forth animal life. On the other hand, if Meryl Streep is cast as Aslan, then perhaps the hoped-for faithful adaptation is not in the offing. Streep hasn't made a practice of playing male characters, but she has done it before. In 2003, she played several characters in HBO's Angels in America, one of whom was Rabbi Isidore, Hemmelwitz?
That's how I would pronounce it.
Yeah. Playing one of a number of characters in a television adaptation of a stage play is one thing. Playing the Great Lion, son of the Emperor beyond the sea, High King of the Kings, and an explicit literary Christophany is another. And you're absolutely right. This leads to the question, what if Meryl Streep has not been cast to play Aslan as a male lion, but instead as a female? What changes would need to take place in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe when his mane is shorn? What are the broader implications of a director adapting a work which they love, but has philosophical or political underpinnings which the director rejects? You asked some really good questions in your articles, Martin. That's why I always love when you write them. But says, since none of these things are confirmed, it may be that Meryl Streep has been cast as Aunt Letitia Ketterly, one of the many talking animals, or the wife of a cabbie who comes to play a role in the story. But given the way Hollywood is grappling with a broad identity crisis, in one instance making moves to back off rage marketing, in another pressing hard into controversial casting like Cynthia Erivo in Jesus Christ Superstar. And I'm glad you made that connection, because that is the most logical connection that I think people can make about this.
Yeah. Actually, I was thinking exactly about that. It was already a controversial play when it was released, but people just keep pushing and making it more fringe.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, you know, it doesn't get more fringe than the Snake Woman herself playing oh my goodness. By the way, this is not the last time we're going to be talking about her tonight. Lauren, were you a Narnia fan growing up?
I was, but it has been so many years since I read them that my memories are very, very thin. I've actually been thinking about picking up the set and reading them again, because it's been probably at least 30 years. So it is something I would like to read again.
Well, I know that you haven't read it in a while, but I will assure you, Aslan is supposed to be a dude.
Yeah, I remember that. It's The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is the one that I remember the most, obviously.
Everybody does, yeah.
I was always a little confused about the reading order, because they had us read them in a specific order, but I've been given to understand that they weren't chronological, and I didn't tilt to that when I was younger.
Yeah, there's the print order,
Lion, right? Yeah. What is the print order, Martin?
The print order starts with Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, then Prince Caspian, then
Voyage of the
Dawn Treader, Silver Chair. I can't remember the fifth one, but I think the sixth is Magician's. Boy and His Horse, or Horse and His Boy, is the fifth one. Sixth is Magician's Nephew, and then it ends with The Last Battle, where Aslan literally comes in and escorts them into the afterlife.
Yep, that makes sense. Trish, was Narnia ever a thing for you?
I read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but I don't think it was anything that particularly grabbed me. I didn't hate it, but I never went on beyond that book.
It was kind of your intro to the intro to fantasy for every kid, right? Like you read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, you read the Narnia books, and then if you were into it, you eventually, a couple of years later, when you got a little older, graduated to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, see, and I didn't take that path. That's not really anything that I gravitate to, so I guess that makes sense.
You Martin, you talk in the story about the music of creation that happens in The Magician's Nephew. It's actually interesting because that same concept happens in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and the two authors, Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, they were friends. They were in a sort of informal group together called the Inklings when they were younger men.
I love that.
Yeah, it's really great. Artists supporting each other, bouncing ideas off each other, evidently giving each other quite a hard time. But yeah, the music creation was something that they both talked about quite a bit, and that makes a lot of sense, given that they both have a real pastoral English sensibility about them, and harmony was an important thing for them.
Absolutely. I really do love the imagery of the music of creation. I think it's very, very strong. It was one of the things that when I had first heard about the Rings of Power before the casting started to be announced, I was excited because I thought we were going to actually see, Eru Ilúvatar and the music of creation in the Lord of the Rings universe, but that was not.
And the disharmony introduced to it.
Yes, with Morgoth. Yeah, I was glad that we didn't end up seeing that because they would have just ruined it.
But it could have been intriguing, like a brand new orchestral score, maybe with hints of some of the things like the Shire theme thrown in and stuff like that. But visually, something like one of the abstract pieces in Fantasia, but done in a high fantasy style instead of cartoony. Although that's kind of giving short shrift to Fantasia. Some of that stuff is spectacular.
Well, you know what? I think that if there was somebody to create the music of creation, Bear McCreary, who was the composer for Rings of Power, and I guess still is, he's the guy to do it. He's a very good composer. The one thing that I did not have an issue with in the Rings of Power was the music. The score was actually quite good because Bear McCreary is quite good. He did all of the music for the new God of War games that take place in the Norse, the Norse mythology.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he's very, very good. So all right, moving along, we're gonna get to super chats after our next story, but let me get to the next story real quick, and that's our friends. Speaking of the Lord of the Rings, not the Rings of Power, but the Lord of the Rings itself, the good folks over at Warner Brothers who made those movies, the Warner Brothers Discovery credit rating was cut to junk status by S&P. The studio is over $38 billion in debt. So in a move that signals serious trouble for one of the biggest names in entertainment, S&P Global Ratings has officially downgraded Warner Brothers Discovery credit rating to junk bond status, citing an ongoing collapse of its cable television operations that continues to overshadow any forward momentum in streaming. And on Tuesday, S&P cut WBD's credit rating to BB+, dropping it below investment grade and into speculative territory. The downgrade reflects what the agency calls continued revenue and cash flow declines at its linear TV operations, adding that the company's leverage ratio will remain above their 3.5-time investment grade threshold through at least 2027. So in other words, there ain't no hope here of anything turning around anytime soon. He says, we do not expect WBD to materially accelerate deleveraging through asset sales, S&P stated in the report, but to instead prioritize investment in growth businesses, which will extend the deleveraging path. Now, this is a massive reputational hit for Warner Bros. Discovery, and one that could make it significantly more expensive to raise capital moving forward. In other words, guys, if your credit rating is junk, you guys know this from trying to apply for credit cards. If your credit rating is junk, nobody's going to give you loans, or you're not going to have very favorable terms for loans. So these movies, they don't just throw up the money all at once in order to make a film. They borrow it and then pay it back with interest. So guys, this is not good for Warner Brothers. $38 billion in debt. That's got to make them upside. That's got to put them upside down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like what the market is identifying as the main problem is the collapse of linear television for them.
Yeah.
Which is astounding considering that the late 80s were dominated by Warner Television Distribution, Larimar, all sorts of stuff like that. We all watched Alf. Like it seemed like half of TGIF was Warner Brothers Distribution, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Larimar Productions. Yeah. Well, they're the one studio that still has their hands pretty deep into cable networks, because Disney has kind of let go of their cable networks. They still obviously have ABC, which, it's you're hard pressed for a network, like an actual network to drag you down. They have ESPN, but they're trying to transition that to a digital platform. But you've still got Warner Brothers with TNT, with TBS, with CNN, which I think is probably the big one, because CNN has a ton of overhead and it is not delivering very good ratings right now. CNN is in the toilet.
On CNN's ratings collapse, you often see this after an election where the side that a news source is perceived to be on gets it. Let's say they everybody's riding high before the election, and then one side wins, and the news that everybody perceives is against that side, they get a bit of a trail off. But the collapse in ratings at MSNBC and CNN seems to be different this time, like a crisis of faith kind of different.
Oh, big time. Well, I think it's because, and guys, not to get political here, but, we were just told that President Biden is in very poor health, and clearly has been in very poor health for a very long time, which means the writing is on the wall that the American people were, as Kevin likes to put it, when they were trying to tell you that he is the most alive person in the history of the world, they were flat out lying to you. And then, Jake Tapper tried to put out that book being like that. I likened it to the O.J. Simpson "If I Did It" book, where it's just kind of a confession book. And but that didn't even have the cancer diagnosis in there. So it's a lot of people, I think, just not trusting them anymore, and their ratings continue to tank, their demo continues to tank, and because of that, the debt goes up, and Warner Brothers gets pulled further down into the dirt. And I think the only thing that for Warner Brothers that's going to be left to do eventually, I know they said that they don't see this being the thing that pulls them out of this, but it's going to be to sell off the assets.
But as they're selling off assets, I'm not sure. Is it a fire sale? Are they going to get the kind of relief they need off of and still be viable? Then again, that's why the credit rating goes down. Those are open questions that nobody has an answer to.
Well, you've got to think that for big name things like the Harry Potter movie rights, or DC, even though it's not nearly as affordable or not as valuable as it used to be, things like the Looney Tunes, things like Mortal Kombat, things like Game of Thrones, like these are all things that I think there'd be a bidding war over.
Yeah.
Lauren, what do you think?
I missed that last part because I was away from the chair. Sorry.
Oh, we were saying that, like, if they sold off their assets, I think there'd be a bidding war for things like DC, things like Game of Thrones, Mortal Kombat.
Absolutely. They've got a ton of assets that are valuable, but according to the story, it sounds like Zaslav isn't planning to try and part out the company, which, if he thinks he can ride it out, I think that's probably the right move. The IP that they own is mega valuable. They just need to clear their debt.
Right. And that's here's the thing. Streaming is up. Streaming is up right now for them. Like they're actually doing pretty good. I don't know who is like all of a sudden like going to HBO Max and being like, I'm going to sign up now, because like there's like nothing new on there right now. In fact, they're selling off a lot of their stuff. So right now, the company reported an increase from $103 million in streaming EBITDA in 2023 to $677 million in 2024. That's a huge increase. And S&P projects that number projects that number to climb to 1.3 billion in 2025. Now, subscriber growth is on the upswing in Q1. They added 5.3 million new streaming subscribers, which outpaces Disney, reaching a total of 122.3 million worldwide. As part of a branding pivot, the company will soon rebrand back to HBO Max, hoping to reinforce the prestige. However, S&P warned that this streaming profitability will likely moderate in 2026 due to increased content spending, marketing costs, and internal launches, such as the upcoming rollout in the UK. In other words, growth in streaming is happening, but not fast enough and not cheaply enough to offset the massive drain on the legacy side. Now, obviously, the gaming division is also in turmoil. They canceled Wonder Woman. They closed Monolith Studios, which created the Nemesis system, which is just one of the most inventive things in gaming. They are just kind of banking right now on the next Hogwarts Legacy, which I don't think, Trish, that there's a lot of forward momentum with that right now. I haven't heard anything.
I haven't heard a single thing. Not a single thing on it. So even if they are working, it's such a massive scale, and to do it right, it's going to take them a while. They're not going to see anything on that for a while now.
So now what they're talking about is a company split. So Warner Brothers Discovery split itself into two internal divisions. Now, one covers its streaming and studio businesses, the profitable side of the company, and the other is covering global linear networks. CEO David Zaslav framed the move as a way to deliver significant shareholder value, but the ratings agency was blunt in its view of what that could mean. They said any separation of the company into a growth company and a global linear networks company would be a credit negative. So they split this off to try to help shareholders, but according to S&P, that's actually tanking the value of Warner Brothers. Anybody?
This stuff is not my forte.
I know.
It sounds bad to me, and so then I'm like, well, then why are they splitting it? If that's the problem, but
it is bad. You're trying to move assets around to try and put the bad debt somewhere where it's a little more acceptable than the main line studio. But it's going to be an interesting play, because if they're not planning to sell assets, I want to know how they're planning to retire their debt. What are you going to do there? What is your source of income going to be?
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that you bringing up the gaming division is actually an important point, because I think people still don't quite understand. Gaming is actually bigger than Hollywood now. Your budgets that are involved with those and the years that go in development are not trivial. And when you see what happened with Rockstar, or that's the wrong studio, I think.
Activision?
Arkham. No, I'm thinking
Rockstar.
Was it Rockstar? Yeah, okay.
No. I'm sorry. Rocksteady. Rockstar is Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, I couldn't remember which one it was, but I mean, when they screwed up Suicide Squad and the last Arkham game that wasn't an Arkham game that had the Bat family,
Arkham Knights.
Yeah,
not Arkham Knights, Gotham City Knights or something like that. That was not made by, I will give it to them, that was not made by Rocksteady. I think that was made by WB Games Montreal. So still WB Games, but
everybody knew. They knew what we wanted. They knew what we were expecting. They crafted something made to look like it, but it was a skinwalker, and I think that really, really ended up hurting their games division badly. There's so much red ink over there, it's not even funny.
And I think we've talked about this on this stream before. They had the Nemesis system that was introduced in those Lord of the Rings combat games. That was ready to go. It would have been perfect for a Batman game, really anything else, and that entire thing's been sidelined. That's huge development costs.
Right. Oh my goodness, we actually have some breaking news right now. Disney has pushed Avengers Doomsday from May 2026 to December 2026. And Secret Wars is now moved to December 2027.
You mean to tell me they couldn't get everything they needed to done in such a short amount of time? Aren't they still writing the script for that thing?
Yeah, I heard that they were starting production with no script.
That worked out really well for Quantum of Solace.
Yeah,
it always works out well when you start without anything to start on. Yeah, no, I'm not remotely shocked by this.
Yeah, wow, that's pretty crazy. We'll get to that in a second when we start talking about Marvel, but I do want to put a pin in this Warner Brothers discussion. Do you think if DC went up for sale, Disney would try to gobble it up, or do you think they'd be able to? I don't know if the FCC would step in for a comic book industry sale for a monopoly.
Well, Iger did just visit the Oval Office, so clearly he's trying to mend some fences there.
Well,
and this is not a stab at any one political leader, because they all do this. Those personal relationships do matter in getting deals done. But I just don't think there's an appetite in the U.S. regulatory industry, right? Yeah, the government regulations, mergers, who oversee mergers. There's not an appetite for giant corporations right now. If anything, a lot of the giants are going to be punished coming up. I think Zaslav is probably right for not selling off things, because that just demonstrates you're in the death spiral.
Right.
And you start losing people, you start losing IP that doesn't get developed because people are putting in their back pocket for the next job, all sorts of things like that. I think the temptation is going to be, we have to have mega hits. And you do. I mean, that's simply where we are these days. You need the headlines, the eye-catching $2 billion movie. That's important. But your real ROI, return on investment, is probably your mid-budget movies. And Warner Brothers has always done great mid-budget stuff. Some of those classics we know out of Warner Brothers were not super expensive.
Right. You're absolutely right. And I mean, I think that right now, every movie studio is going to be trying to gobble up as many game properties as humanly possible because of the success Warner Brothers just had with Minecraft. I would be shocked if we don't get a Fortnite movie within the next, 7 years or so. Which I don't know how you do that, because part of the thing about Fortnite is that it's so many different IPs like together in that Fortnite world. So it's almost kind of like what they did with Space Jam, over at Warner Brothers with the second Space Jam.
Well, Warner Brothers did have that pan Warner Brothers IP fighting game. My kids like it quite a bit. I can't remember what the name of it is.
Right.
But you can have Bugs Bunny fighting against
Multiverses.
Yeah.
Multiverses. That was a live service game, and they got rid of it. I mean, look, the single most ambitious crossover of our time was not it wasn't the Avengers the way so many people think it was. It wasn't even like the Jetsons meet the Flintstones guys. It was a little something called Cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue from the early 90s. Do you remember this, Martin Stone?
I didn't watch it, but I do remember it.
It was...
Well, you look like three fine lads. I might have something here you'd like to try. Something to make you feel real good.
There's myriad wild and wonderful ways to say no. No thanks. No way.
Better learn a few and take 'em wherever you go.
No thanks, no sir.
If your pal says let's get high, here's a practical reply. Go ahead, let's fly, spit right in his eye and say no.
There's a lot going on right there, guys.
I'm in love with this. That's tremendous.
Did you never see that as a kid, Trish? It was like
No.
every cartoon, and it was put together by Barbara Bush as a way to do the as part of the just say no to marijuana and just say no to drugs campaign. And it's
tremendous.
I think
By
the
showing
Ninja
a relatively cool-looking teenager who clearly just did some.
Yeah. And but then the Muppet Babies show up and tell you not to do it, along with Garfield and the Smurfs and the Ninja Turtles. I believe the Ninja Turtles are in it.
Doesn't it seem a little bit disingenuous for the Muppets to be telling you not to do stuff like that?
Well, it's not like the Electric Mayhem is telling you, and it's the Muppet Babies. To be fair, they weren't doing the Electric Mayhem. Animal wasn't getting into the stuff while he was still a baby.
Yeah, but I mean, like Elmo telling kids about stranger danger. Probably, we could have used some more of that.
Yeah.
I don't think Zoot would have been a good choice. Speaking of the Electric Mayhem.
Yeah, probably not. All right, guys. So let's talk for a minute about this breaking news about this Avengers Doomsday situation, because God.
Before we do that, I need to address something in the chat if I can. So
Sure,
somebody asked me about this, so I wanted to show it. There it is.
Fantastic.
Is that a threat?
No, it's they were asking if I had a whip, and I said yes, I do. And I said a real whip, not a toy whip. And it's like, yes, it's a real whip. I had this one custom made for me. It's got my initials on the ferrule there.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's not in great shape anymore. I would like to replace it, but I do have one. So people wanted to know. There it is.
Lauren's a big Devo fan.
At my college, there was this dude who would go out into the quad that was it was surrounded by these, mega buildings that were all flat-sided with his whip on Saturday mornings. And just that sound would echo off of all the buildings in this little
the whip
quad.
crack.
It was great.
Yeah. It's like people have asked me all kinds of things about the outfit that I put together, and I put it together shortly before Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out. I'm not really a cosplayer, it's not really my scene, but it occurred to me, I'd always been a prop collector, and Indy is probably my favorite cinematic character. And I realized it's like, I can actually do this. I can figure out what all of the parts of the costume are. I can buy them. I can afford it. And it would be cool to be able to wear that to the premiere of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So that's what I did. And the other nice thing about it is that because all of the parts of the costume are just honestly regular wearing around clothes, if you don't put all of it together, you can wear this stuff out day to day. You can wear the hat or you can wear the jacket. It's only when you put it all together that people start looking at it, so the one thing that I decided
when I met you in person, you were wearing the jacket and you were wearing the hat.
No, actually, the hat ain't right. The hat that you saw me in is just a standard Dorfman hat. It's bound edge. It's got the wrong bash in the top. It's not even the right color. And the jacket was a denim jacket, but I do have the actual stuff. If you ever, it's someday I'll show you. But the one thing that I promised to myself when I put it all together was, if I was going to buy this costume, I was going to learn how to use the whip. And one of the things that I learned is that cracking a whip is not the way that you think cracking a whip is. If you crack a whip the way that you think you need to crack a whip, you're going to split your lip pretty quick. So
like Indy does in the beginning of Last Crusade.
Yeah, it's actually that is not far off. You are going to hit yourself when you're learning to do this, and it hurts a lot. So if you're going to get good at it, you gotta you learn it pretty quick. It is fun.
Speaking from experience, did you actually split your lip?
I didn't split my lip, but I lashed myself across the cheek a couple times. When you get hit with it, there's a little whimpering, and you just want to sit down and think about your life for a little while, and then it fades, and you get back up and you do it again. I never got really good with it. I've seen people that can put the tip of the fall wherever they want it. I saw at a fair one guy, a gal holding a plastic spoon out like this, a little girl, and he was just cutting it down to right by her thumb. And it's like, I would never do that. But
wow.
But if you get good at it, there are people that can put it wherever they want it, and I think it's amazing.
The Mask of Zorro when Antonio Banderas is whipping the candles out.
And his whip trainer was Anthony DeLongis, and if you know anything about whip stunt guys, he's like the Hollywood whip guy. He does other stuff too, but he's got a lot of great videos online. If you ever want to watch him, he talks about whip technique. Very, very cool guy.
He probably got invited to a lot of parties.
Oh my goodness. All right. Let's get to some super chats before we move on to the breaking news. Regina Sharp for $5 says, "See, Marvin, my chats are both long and informational." Yeah, no, you impressed me with that one, Regina Sharp. Siren the Cat checking in for $2.79 Canadian says, "Oh, come on. Marvin jammed to Michael Bolton as a teen." I do like that Lonely Island Michael Bolton collab.
Michael Bolton's a funny dude. You ever see that e-card for my friend and I send it to each other every year? It's a tradition. It's like, "Today is your birthday," and he like sings to like a fake chicken, and it's like he's funny. Michael Bolton's a funny guy, and he's written songs that I don't think people know he's written. Like, that are not his. Like, he wrote "Forever" by Kiss, Paul Stanley.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, like I found, I was like, Michael Bolton co-wrote that song. So yeah, he's kind of an interesting guy. I don't think he's doing too well. I think he just announced that he's not doing too well. I felt kind of bad about it. But
did you ever see the collab he did with Andy Samberg's band Lonely Island with the Captain Jack Sparrow?
Yeah,
stuff?
the Jack Sparrow. Yeah, it's good.
Like clips
so funny.
in it.
It's so funny. I love it. Now back to the good part. It's so good. Siren the Cat for $2.79 Canadian also says, "And Pedro Pascal isn't gay. He's deeply closeted." Yeah. Yes. I'm sure he is.
It's just unappealing, full stop, him doing that. Like, regardless of any context, anything, just who wants to see that?
Maybe I can make it better for you, Trish.
Embraced by the darkness, I'm losing the light. Encircled by demons I fight. What have I become now that I've betrayed?
It's fascinating how he went from being obscene with it to being like, kind of like, "I'm going to present like a man," to going. It's just like tonal whiplash watching him dance. All right.
Did you recognize the song? It's Fozzy.
No, I didn't recognize that. But all right.
It was Fozzy.
I believe you. Why are you yelling at me like, okay?
Because you're supposed to be the number one Jerichoholic in the world.
When was the last time I gave a crap about any of this stuff?
That's very true. No, but it is a Fozzy song. But it's a cover of a Fozzy song because I didn't want to subject anyone to Chris Jericho's singing voice.
So wait a minute. Let me get this straight. It was a cover of them, and you're like, why didn't you recognize that it wasn't Chris Jericho's voice?
You're supposed to be the music person here, Trish.
Think
if
about that one. Evaluate what you just yelled at me about. Not recognizing someone who's not singing.
Well, darn it, Trish.
I win.
You kind of win. only because I was looking for something else.
Yeah. Oh, that's the only reason why. Didn't make a salient point. It's because you were looking for something. Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm. No, I was actually looking for something, but you did make a salient point. I will give you that one. It's uploading right now.
Benevolent of you.
No, I thought so. There's a clip that I used to play all the time when people annoyed me because it is I called it ear cancer. But come on, really? Like, I'm vamping enough. Can we just load this up, StreamYard, please? Thank you. Okay, good Lord. Why is it taking so long? All right. I'm just going to move on to the next super chat and then check on it in a minute. Andre Adams for $4.99 says, "Cynthia Erivo looks like the creature from Splice."
Deep cut.
Deep cut.
I believe that creature was called Adrian Brody.
Possibly. Oh, hold on. Here it is.
I look and see it's not just me. So many others have stood where I stand. We are the young, so raise your hand. They call us problem child. We spent our lives on trial. We walk an endless mile. We are the youth gone wild. We stand and we won't fall. We're one and one for all. The writing's on the wall. We are the youth gone wild. Living in wild! Yay!
Look how pleased with himself he is at the end of it.
Now put that over the Pedro video.
Oh my gosh, that's a good idea.
If you said something just now in any way, missed it because I muted nearly that entire thing. I listened to that long enough to realize he was singing Youth Gone Wild by Skid Row, which, yes. I'd admire the Beatles paraphernalia he had in the background. I was like,
You didn't immediately recognize Jericho? Was it because he looks like a canned ham now?
no, I knew exactly who it was. Still
Okay,
muted
but-
the crap out of it.
Let's say Motley Crue went on tour.
Mhm.
Jericho might be a better fit than Vince Neil
Listen.
actually is these
Yes,
days.
I'd like to think that he could clear that bar that is on the floor in 2025 for Vince Neil. I'd like to think that, but
He
and this
the
is coming
worst.
from someone who's seen Motley Crue 3 times. You know,
Oh, wait.
not for the vocal stylings, it's more for the whole experience.
But like he posted that as like a look, guys, I can sing. I'm like, what are you hearing?
Plus, it was very loud.
Well, it was so do you remember when him and Sebastian Bach got into it?
No, but I feel like that's not that surprising. Sebastian Bach kind of sometimes.
Well,
butt heads with
somebody
people.
says somebody compared Sebastian Bach to Jericho as a singer, and he was like, "Yeah, no,
No,
I don't."
that's an
he
insult.
goes- yeah, he was literally like, "You're insulting me," and then he said, "I don't lip sync," and Jericho was like, "I never lip sync," and he's like, "Yes,
Yeah,
you
that's-
do."
That's no. Like, if I may defend Sebastian Bach, he has been on Broadway.
Yeah,
I'm just saying
No,
he
I-
can sing. That's like,
Yeah.
Calm down. Whoever
So
said
they were
that.
they were comparing him to Jericho in like "You're good like Jericho," and he's like, "Jericho's not good."
So wait a minute. The compliment wasn't the Jericho. You're like Sebastian Bach. It was Sebastian Bach. You're like Chris
It was
Jericho.
something
Stop.
like that. I need to look up the actual thing, but I know it was Sebastian Bach. The Jericho thing was said to Bach, and he was just like
Stop.
mortally offended.
Stop. I can't stop. You know what I love about Sebastian Bach? He was touring like solo, whatever. And one of the things he highlighted on his poster was that he was in Gilmore Girls.
And he's sure
I was like, you know what? He's so proud of it. Good for him.
He's great in Gilmore Girls.
He is great in Gilmore Girls. I was like, no shame. He's not trying to hide it. Good for you. He's thinking like, I'll get those Gilmore Girls fans out to see
I
him.
used to always be like, man, he should have been a voice actor too, just because he has such a rich speaking voice. Like it's just
Very
such
distinct.
a well-defined, distinct speaking voice. But I remember when he was in Jekyll and Hyde on Broadway, and very, very interesting version of it.
Skid Row, kind of underrated, if I may say, but we won't go down that road.
Oh, because I was about to.
Do you agree or no?
Oh, I do. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, right. Okay, thank you.
I
think
thought
we
they
did a little-
I thought they were one of the edgier hair bands that really had some talent.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree. So there you go. Thanks, Martin.
Real Rain
Gotcha,
89, member for 6 months, says Trish is the Fight Club Marla singer of Tooney Town. I don't
I
get that
saw
reference.
Fight Club like 9 million years ago. You know,
Yeah, same.
my brain, it's just been like, I haven't had to think about that since that movie came out, so gone. I'm gonna assume it's a compliment. Thank you.
I was taking it as a compliment. So
Yeah.
John Williams from 499 says the actress from Ms. Marvel was a huge fan of the character. She was the only bright spot for her appearances. I don't dislike her at all.
Yeah, and
I
those
don't-
interviews she did where she clearly is a fan of the genre when nobody else in the cast was.
It earns
That
you
was nice.
points. It earns you points. And that's why, but we said on the pro show last night, the fact that Corn Sweat has put out there that he is such a Star Wars fan. I think Lauren, I think you were the one who might have said it, was like, it's proof that he will never actually be in Star Wars now. Because you have to be the fake Star. Somebody said
it wasn't me, but I agree with the sentiment because they are deeply allergic to anybody who likes what has gone before.
Yeah, I remember it was like remember the dude that played the one male Jedi in not the Squid Games guy, but the other male Jedi in the Acolyte, and he was just like, well, you know, when Anakin destroyed the Death Star, and he said it in like 3 different interviews.
Right.
And nobody stopped him. And Leslie Headland, she was like, my favorite Star Wars is all the Star Wars. John Williams Report 99 says the dragon shield being foam was because of the copy Japan sent broke, and Saban was too cheap to fix and replace it. Yeah. Yes, it was. This is the same. The one they used on the show was the same one that you could rent out at Party City. All bee booty bees and bacon with big B's for $5 says, look at this photograph. Every time I do, it makes me laugh. It's Tooney Khan. Oh, fantastic. John Williams with 199 says, remember the guy who directed The Exorcist wasn't remotely religious and he still adapted the book accurately. That's a good point, Martin.
Oh, I thought you were attributing that to me, and I was like, no, that's John. But yeah, it is a good point. I can't remember. There was another science fiction horror, and I want to say John Huston directed it. It was written by a lady who was Catholic, but after Huston directed the movie adaptation, he talked to her and he's like, I just directed a movie I didn't understand. And he thought he was making sort of an anti-religious movie. And in the end, he realized, oh no, I made a very profoundly pro-Catholic movie.
Mm-hmm.
So these adaptations, people who don't believe can, in whatever the message of the adaptation is, as long as there's some commonality in the vision, they can be fine. They can be great.
Yeah, I wrote some stuff. I wrote some stories in the past that were very like religion based, back from a time when I was not very religion based, and I always tried to treat it with respect. So yes, guys, I have written things that have been published. No, you can't know what they are, but there will be new things coming in the near future that you can actually see. So, Dragon Queen for $2 says, I never read Lord of the Rings. I read EU, all of EU. Good for you, Dragon Queen. I hope you read every last bit of it. Tales from Jabba's Palace, my favorite. It's funny. They keep doing the Tales from like cartoons, and they've never done like Tales of the Bounty Hunters. They did Tales of the Underworld, which was basically Tales of the Bounty Hunters.
They would get in trouble trying to adapt those real fast. That's more adult than what they want to do.
Very true. Very true. Especially because it's animation. But Tales of the Underworld, I mean, there was an Asajj Ventress 3-parter that wasn't terrible. At first I thought they were doing the pronoun thing in the first episode, and but then they didn't. So
the other one was Cad Bane.
Yeah, well, the other one was Cad Bane, and that one was actually good. I liked that one. Because I think Cad Bane is one of the best things that Dave Filoni added to Star Wars. I don't give him Ventress because he didn't create Ventress, but he did do a very nice adaptation of Ventress. But Lauren, you know what I thought was interesting at the beginning of the Ventress arc? They actually, the first time I think Star Wars has ever done this, they do a scene from a book in the animation, because they show how Ventress is still alive after she died in the Quinlan Vos novel.
This is an area where I start bristling because Ventress has gone through so many different iterations that didn't agree with each other. And they actually did an audio drama that they later released in book form for the script that was Dooku. And it actually unified all of the various versions of her in a continuity that made sense. It was one of the few Disney things that I think they did right. And then they immediately went back to just screwing around with what she is, who she's associated with, whether she's alive, whether she's dead. At a certain point, it's like they have screwed Ventress as a character when they decided they were going to completely ignore her death, because they just, it's again, them. And I'm going to backpedal a little bit here, because I was going to say this is Filoni and to a lesser extent George Lucas's daughter not being able to let go of these characters that they feel they have ownership over. But this is part of why I am enjoying sitting back here and watching Filoni get irritated about the fact that Gilroy took and overwrote his speech. Now, technically he didn't. The way that they're trying to tell this story is that both speeches occurred, that they made the handoff of Mon Mothma to
Right.
Gold Squadron, but he's annoyed that his speech was outclassed. It's like, well, how do you like it? How do you like it when somebody decides that they don't like what you did and they overwrite it? Doesn't feel too good, does it, Hat?
Right. Did you just call him Hat?
I did call him Hat.
I like that. But yeah, I mean, you look at what he did with all of Timothy Zahn's characters, and yeah, it's you're absolutely right, Lauren, 100%.
I have a question about Filoni, actually.
Sure, go ahead.
Because I'm watching through Clone Wars with my oldest, because he's interested in them, and we notice there's just a whole lot of Twi'leks. Is that a thing for Filoni?
That's a George thing.
Okay.
Well, I to be fair, I think it's an all of us thing. It's like who doesn't
Right.
like Twi'lek?
No, but like it has long been surmised that George has a fascination with the Twi'lek females.
No question about it whatsoever.
Yeah.
He was absolutely, when he saw the design for Talon, it's like, we're going to use that. We're going to use that everywhere that we can. And everybody kept telling him, no, you can't. That's 100 years in the future. George don't care. He was going to insert Talon wherever he possibly could.
Well, apparently that's coming. That she's going to be Darth Maul's apprentice in the Darth Maul show, from what I'm hearing.
Yep.
I hate it. I hate that so much. And I said, what was the first thing I said when this Darth Maul show got announced? I said, he's going to have a quirky female sidekick who's going to be better than him.
I mean, to be fair, this is kind of where George wanted to go with the canceled video game. And then when he couldn't do that, he was going to use her in the 7, 8, and 9 treatments. So, you know, they're sort of trying to use some of the stuff that George wanted to use. I just don't think it's the way he would have used it.
Remember when you're watching Clone Wars, Martin, it's not Disney era. Clone Wars was all, except for the last season, it was all created under George. So a lot
but Filoni directed a lot of it, right?
Filoni directed it, but under George's direct supervision. So he's done plenty of interviews where he was like, you know, like we'd be cooking on a season, and then the phone would ring and it'd be George, and he would be like, I want a Jar Jar episode. Those Jar Jar.
I did watch the Darth Jar Jar episode. I thought that was pretty good.
Bombad Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the Clone Wars is so tonally uneven, and it's actually, I got to ask you, Martin, are you watching in release order or in chronological order?
Chronological.
Okay, I've never done that, and I would kind of like to, because I'll bet it changes the whole experience.
Well, and I have assembled the entire Star Wars chronology in universe chronological order as a single playlist.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. But yeah, one of the things he was saying, they were talking about the Godzilla episode that they do with like the big like kaiju type thing, and how it's on this, and it's on a planet with like nothing on it, and he was like, oh, thank goodness, because if we had to do this on Coruscant, this would be the worst. And then his phone rings and it's George, and he's like, yeah, I want to do it on Coruscant in the second episode, and Filoni was like, no. We used to always joke that the Clone Wars was George Lucas going, something for you and something for me, because for every like Night Sisters trilogy, or you know the gods of Mortis, the gods of Mortis, you had like a 4-part all droids arc, or like Jar Jar and 3PO teaming up.
I liked the droids arc. I don't know why everybody knocks it. I think that one's actually kind of fun.
Do you remember like when the droids arc got announced? It was at Star Wars Celebration, and like George, they just showed the trailer that showed Palpatine dueling Maul and Savage. So everyone is like at 11 right now, and then George appears, and they go to like 15. And then all of a sudden, George is like, and we're going to do a 4-parter with nothing but droids. And everyone was like, yeah, what? And it's just like, you're something for me and something for you.
But remember, George was always an experimental filmmaker, and he would always push the envelope just as far as he could go. In that droids arc, there's some beautiful cinematography, and I think that's what he was going for mostly was the visuals, and it's also where we got introduced to Gregor, if I remember right. So I
Yeah.
got to give him kudos for that too.
Yep. Martin just had a power outage, so he'll be back in a minute. Mike Glass gifted 5 Tooney Town TV memberships. Thank you very much, Mike Glass. Though I do hear that Wilton or Flora from Under a Rock got one of them. So curses, John Williams for $4.99 says WBD also announced Mortal Kombat 1 is no longer getting new content. Well, they've also announced that like they're not focusing on any like experimental games anymore. Like it's all going to be Harry Potter, Mortal Kombat, Batman, like all just their proven IPs. Maddie for $1.99 says show the Tooney Town Wrestling theme Pedro Pascal. I already did that. I mean, I could do it again. Liquid Fox member for 8 months says I'm at work but got a quick second. Something 3 days, 200 get back to work. Oh, look what my boss made me type. keep don't get fired, Liquid Fox, please. Regina Sharp member for 3 months. Is Jericho good? Well, cocaine's a hell of a drug. Yeah, it would be. And John Williams for $4.99 says Bane and Revan were going to appear as Force ghosts, revealing that they tempted the sun, but George said remove that. That's interesting. I mean, eventually we did get Bane as a spirit, right? In the last episode.
Yes, but a much different design than what had been known as the canonical Bane before. I have mixed feelings about this because I would have loved to have seen Revan in there, but it doesn't make sense. This is actually an area where removing that does make sense because the son, the daughter, and the father far precede Bane and Revan. It's like they're celestials. They are like from the origin of the creation of the galaxy, because the galaxy is an artificially constructed construct. They were involved in that. So having Bane and Revan tempt them would make no sense whatsoever.
So one of the reasons why I really wanted Starkiller to pop up in the Ahsoka series, and I really thought that's where they were going, was because I thought with Anakin appearing in the world between worlds, it was going to be that Anakin was the father, Ahsoka was the daughter, and Galen Marek was the son, and that was going to be the new Gods of Mortis.
As replacements, yes, and I think a lot of people thought that, and I think that there is still a possibility that's where they're going with Ahsoka season 2, because that's what they're looking for on Peridia. They're trying to find, I believe, another way into the world between worlds. But Filoni has shown himself to be such an insufferable hack that I don't trust him with any of this. Ahsoka broke my heart, I think, like almost no other Star Wars show did. It literally made me furious to see what they did with that show. And Obi-Wan was bad, but Ahsoka was hold my beer,
Obi-Wan was bad, but Obi-Wan also had a really good ending fight between Obi-Wan and Vader that I very much liked.
Obi-Wan had scenes, and it's like, I've been going back and forth on this because I did buy The Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2. I bought Obi-Wan. I have Andor season 1. I've been debating, do I buy Mandalorian season 3 and Ahsoka? Because even though I don't accept them as canon, it's like I do feel like maybe at some point in the future you could take some of the footage and edit it and maybe make something out of it. I don't know. I don't know if there would be a way to utilize any of that stuff to make something better or not, but part of me feels like having it might still be a good idea for archival purposes.
I mean, I love that Vader Obi-Wan fight at the end of the Obi-Wan series. I love the psychology of that fight. I think it's a very well choreographed battle. But you're right, and I even like that when he throws him in the fire earlier in the series. I think that's very Anakin.
I loved that episode. That episode I thought was cooking because literally. Partially because there's the horror element when Vader arrives and Obi-Wan is hiding, and Vader senses him,
right?
Almost smells him, and quickly comes to the realization, I know how to draw you out, and I'm going to do it in the most horror movie way possible.
Yeah.
Vader is a monster, and when he throws him into the fire, it's a "How do you like it?" kind of a moment.
Yep.
I like that Vader in this time period, he's still very angry. He's still youthful angry. He's not cool and controlled. He's a little awkward. He's a little I don't know. He's a little untethered, and I kind of like seeing that side of him. The flip side of that, though, is that I thought the fight choreography was terrible, and I thought the cinematography in a lot of cases was terrible. There's some scenes of Vader on the Star Destroyer where they've got his helmet in close up, and it's like, this doesn't look right. You're not framing him right, and
Right.
I don't know. It's just bits and pieces of it are good, but most of it's just awful.
Yeah. The my favorite line in that episode with the fire is when he sees him for the first time and he says, "What have you become?" And he goes, "I am what you made me." And I love that line. I think there are moments in that show that are very good, but it's, and when you watch that fight and you look at the psychology of it, when he starts fighting like Dooku at one point, I like how he gets inside the guard and busts up the chest piece, which is something that we've never seen anyone try to do to Vader before. It's literally a glowing, blinking target in the middle of his chest. So, yeah, but we do have to move on to this breaking news here, Lauren, because as we pointed out, they have delayed Avengers Doomsday from May 2026 to December 18th, 2026. Secret War is then moved to December 17th, 2027. Now, no update given on Spider-Man Brand New Day, which was rumored to kind of take that Captain Marvel spot between the two movies, and it was going to have plot points impacted by Doomsday and then be released shortly thereafter. So, I mean, Trish, what do you think? Do you think that they are just in over their heads with this one right now?
Yeah. I mean, all signs point to yes, they are. They're probably overwhelmed with the number of people, because I don't see how they can't be. So coordinating that alone is probably a headache. They don't have a script at least finished, so they probably don't know what they're doing from one day to the next. They have a lot writing on it, so I'm sure they're panicking to some degree that things are kind of all up in the air over something that's incredibly important to them. So whoever could have foreseen this happening?
Yeah, 100%. Martin, welcome back.
Thank you. Didn't Chris Pratt like a month ago kind of tease that he might actually be in Doomsday, even though he was left out of the lengthy chair reveal?
6-hour chair reveal.
Well, isn't there supposed to be like more people still?
They always said that, but I think that was
just
because they wanted to make sure that anytime they needed to pull something out of a hat, it was ready.
Now, if Brand New Day is supposed to take place in between these two movies and it has plot points associated with Doomsday, Disney has now got to convince Sony to move its release date, and Sony might not be keen to do that. Because I don't think Disney can force that. I don't think Disney can. It's going to cost them a pretty penny, I bet.
Maybe an appearance by somebody other than Tony Stark.
They're going to have to move Brand New Day into the next year. They're going to have to move it into 2020 into 2027, which I'm sure Sony is not happy about.
But yeah. Well, do we know what the rest of Sony's release schedule looks like? Because Brand New Day being in 1 year and being pushed back up basically a whole year, that's going to affect where it lands for budget.
Big time. It's what a mess. What a mess they have made for themselves. And it's got to be because they're panicked. It's got to be because nothing they're doing is working. And so that brings us tightly into our title story for the night. Feige and Iger are apparently clashing over the X-Men movie direction. Disney is apparently scrambling because they want a blockbuster, and Feige wants more social commentary. So, according to Main Middleman on X, Feige wanted a more grounded X-Men story with a plot that really focused on social issues and disagreements about what it means to be a mutant. He wanted a powerful, dramatic movie that really showed what the X-Men were all about, with the Brotherhood of Mutants as the bad guys. But that's not what Iger and Disney want. Now, they're aware of the poor performance of more restrained films, especially disappointing box office results of Captain America: Brave New World and Thunderbolts. So the script has been requested to focus on a great event to get a wider audience attention. I think Bob Iger is probably right here. The last thing they need right now is another social justice movie. And I know people love to say, oh, but it's the X-Men. That's what it's about. It's Stan Lee has even said that's not what the X-Men is about. It's just kind of taken this on over the years. And if Kevin were here right now, he'd be also screaming that it's not.
Well, I mean, the thing is, they're not mutually exclusive. You could tell a story that does both, but I don't trust these guys to do it.
Oh, no, there's no nuance. Like, yeah, no.
I think for a giant ensemble like the X-Men has to be, if you're actually going to make it the X-Men and not some individual character, you do need an event. For individual characters, you can do mid-budget movies that are small personal stories, but you can't really do that for an ensemble piece.
Do you foresee a day where the X-Men become the new Avengers in that, like, we have a Wolverine movie, we can do a Storm movie, we could do a Rogue movie, a Gambit movie, but then they all come together for the X-Men movie?
They could do that, but I think that's cannibalizing your brand too much, because they're still going to want to do that with Avengers as well.
Right. Now, I think Iger has been, we laugh about it all the time, but I think there has been an attempt of late by Iger to quiet the noise. I think that he, we saw him bring the Abu Dhabi plans to Trump. We saw him, make the payment for that lawsuit to the Trump library. We have seen him. He's clearly seen the results from Inside Out 2. He's going to see what the results will likely be from Lilo and Stitch, plus the results from Snow White, Captain America. And eventually a pragmatic businessman is going to say, okay, I know what has to be done here. Feige knew what the complaints were about Marvel and still gender bent the Silver Surfer.
It's inexplicable.
Yeah. So Feige, I think, is the true believer here, who, is just like, this is what I want and I'm going to get it no matter what. And now Bob Iger steps in. But now remember, and this is the first time I'm ever saying this as a negative, Bob Iger is supposedly leaving soon. And he will leave before, in theory, the X-Men come out.
Honestly, I think we're looking at this the wrong way. It's not inexplicable. It's that Feige's playing with the house's money. He's not playing with his own. And honestly, they're kind of in the same position, I think, that Lucasfilm is in, is that, say that Iger angers Feige enough that Feige walks. Who's going to replace him? Who are they going to put up there? Because they have built Feige as the source of all this good stuff. They're the ones that are, they have pushed him as the guy, whether he was the guy or not. That would be pretty big egg on their face if he decided that he was going to go do something else.
Yeah,
Maybe
they put him in the
Gunn.
books. They put him in the books as somebody the X-Men wanted to meet.
Mm-hmm. Wait, they put Feige in the books?
Yeah. Yeah, there was like some big cocktail party in one of the X-Men books where a bunch of famous people and Marvel characters are there, and Feige was one of them.
You know who they've done that with in the books before? Stan Lee. That should show you how Feige sees himself.
Yep. We live in a strange world.
Yeah. So now here's some of the rumors that are coming out about this movie have given me great pause. So Marvel might race swap Professor X. Did you guys hear about this? That it looks like Marvel might be trying to race swap Professor X in the MCU X-Men reboot. The Marvel Cinematic Universe's next major gamble may not be at the box office, but at the casting table. Reports are now circulating that Marvel Studios is actively pursuing black actors for the role of X-Men leader Professor Charles Xavier, setting off a firestorm of debate over what the franchise truly stands for and who it's willing to alienate in the process. Now, while Sir Patrick Stewart is confirmed to return in Avengers Doomsday, the studio is also laying groundwork for its long-awaited MCU X-Men reboot. And one name that keeps coming up is Coleman Domingo. During a recent episode of the Hot Mic podcast, Jeff Snyder of The Insider said, I continue to hear black actors for Charles Xavier. He said Marvel may be heading in this direction to distance itself from Patrick Stewart and James McAvoy. It's also rumored that Denzel Washington is the studio's top pick for Magneto, fueling speculation that Marvel wants to draw real-world civil rights parallels by mirroring the dynamic of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Recent reports also suggest they might be considering Daniel Day-Lewis for the role of Magneto, which I think would actually be really good casting. So there's a lot of conflicting chatter right now. Guys, what do you think about the idea of Magneto and Professor X is race swapped?
Well, this has been a rumor for a long time. They've been talking about this for no small amount of time. I'd heard Denzel Washington before. I'd also heard Giancarlo Esposito, you know?
Yeah.
I think where they're going to run into trouble, and this is a problem that's endemic to the X-Men anyway, comics or no, is that time moving on is a thing. And their origin is in the Holocaust. And there comes a point at which you guys are 120 years old, you know, and there are some things that you can't really swap. It's like part of Eric's identity is that he's Jewish, you know, and so I don't know how you get around some of those things unless you're telling the story in a particular time.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was in the comics. They have made it so that Magneto ages very slowly now.
Well, that's convenient.
Something with his powers that basically makes him able to be like, you know, over 100 years old and still look, you know, like he's in his 40s or 50s. So
it's just silly. Do what DC does. Batman's always 35.
Yeah, I know, but like Lauren said, Magneto, and Magneto wasn't always a survivor of World War II. You know, like
that's a Chris Claremont thing, right?
Yeah, that was a Chris Claremont thing. In the beginning, Magneto was just a supremacist. Like it was just I'm a mutant. Mutants are better than humans, and we're going to basically destroy all humans. It wasn't until, like you said, Chris Claremont, that we started to get that. So, by the way, guys, Marvel creatives are even pushing back on this idea.
You brought me back for Bo, right?
I did.
You made sure I was like, all right.
Yeah, I waited for you. Bo DeMeo, the ousted showrunner of X-Men 97, himself a black man, appears to be among those slamming the move, responding to an X-post that pointed out how Magneto's backstory as a survivor of wartime atrocities and Xavier's background as a privileged British academic were integral to their original identities. He didn't mince words. So this guy over here said, Professor X and Magneto's ethnicities are actually super important to their characters. Magneto for the whole Holocaust thing, and Professor X because of his view of mutant issues is inherently privileged because he's never actually faced discrimination as a rich white British man. Bo DeMeo says, that's all I got to say. Oh, and that Marvel Studios' rush to get X-Men into Avengers Doomsday continues to suggest that the studio has no respect or awareness for/of what the X-Men stand for beyond fan pandering cameo fodder to salvage 6 years of failed films by Feige and Company.
Why did I have the impression that the Xavier family was supposed to be Dutch?
I don't know. I always thought they were British. He then says Marvel Studios should also learn to respect and protect their black creatives before trying to exploit their skin color to appear progressive, especially when their vaunted parliament is a bro country club of white executives with zero black producers. Ouch. So basically, Bo is saying this is nothing but pandering. They don't actually practice what they preach. This is pure virtue signaling. And we all knew that. We all knew that. We all knew that Disney didn't actually care about this stuff, right?
This irritates me.
Sorry, Lord, you go ahead. Okay. It's okay to want an adaptation from one visual medium into another visual medium to look like the source material. That's fine. And I'm tired of pretending that I haven't pretended that's not for a long time. Society needs to stop pretending that it's not okay. a fan should be able to say, well, that person doesn't look anything like them. It ended up being okay in the case of like Daniel Craig in the first couple of James Bond movies, that he didn't look anything like James Bond as described in the books. Yeah, in the end, maybe, not so much.
What we've, it's one of the only things I've ever agreed with George Takei on is when they turned Sulu gay in the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies. And everybody was like, hey, isn't this great? Isn't this great, George? And he said, no, it's not. Like Gene Roddenberry did not make Hikaru Sulu gay. That's not the character. You're changing it for no one.
They did it because he is.
They're changing it because George Takei is gay. And he's like, I'm not Sulu. Like, I played Sulu. I am not Sulu. Sulu is not me. And I had a lot of respect for him when he said that. I mean,
I bet you that's where his age comes in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and that was also 10 years ago. In that time, he's done a lot of speaking out on a lot of different things. I do wonder where he'd be on it today.
That's true.
Well, he'd probably feel pressured to be all for it today.
That's probably true, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, look, Xavier and Magneto, race swapping them, I think would be a big mistake. It's too on the nose, and you're just changing integral parts of who they are. They're not Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. That's not their dynamic. It never has been. It never will be. Magneto is not Malcolm X. Magneto is a supremacist. At the end of the day, Magneto's goal is to wipe out humanity and establish mutants as the dominant race. And this is the thing. The Brotherhood of Evil Mutants will be treated like they are heroes in this movie. I guarantee it. They will treat them the way they treated those terrorists in Captain America and the Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Will you do me a favor? Will you bring up Bo's quote again?
Sure. Well, actually, I will have to reopen the article. I'd already closed it. But yes, I will bring that back up for you, Lauren.
Because he says something that's good, but he also says something that's wrong, and I want to point it out because I think it's important.
Well, now my computer's running really slow for some reason. Come on.
Mind out
Well,
yours.
the gist of it was, though, what he's saying is he's making the correct point about their ethnicities being important. And he's making the right point about Disney not really caring about these issues.
Right.
But then he goes and says that their parliament, where they discuss all these things, is filled with white people and they don't have any black people in the room, and that's why it's not working. That's not right. That's still the wrong point. It's that what you want to have is the best people for the job. It doesn't matter what their skin color is. Now, he may be very well right that these guys are not the right people for the job. And there may be minorities who would be better people for the job. But if you're not operating in a paradigm that those with the merit to produce success are the ones that are in the room, this is what you're going to get. So if you're supporting not making those decisions based on merit and that will lead to profit and success for the company, you're going to create the same kind of slop. You're just going to be doing it from the opposite viewpoint.
Yep.
I will say that I do think part of, I'm not saying he's not saying that, because I'm sure he probably is, but part of that is also on Disney, because I think part of his point is you're saying you're this, but then over here, there's nothing. So it's like, and do I think that he thinks there should be that? Because yeah, probably. You're probably right about that. But I do think that his point about it's the disingenuous nature of it that's just like, come on, you say all this stuff and you're doing, it's like you're bending over backwards in a way that doesn't mean anything.
Well, that's not the only thing that's got people up in arms potentially about this X-Men show.
I was a man. Yes. Oh, yes. I was a man.
Rumor: Marvel eyeing Wicked star Cynthia Erivo for Storm in MCU X-Men reboot. This would be terrible.
Mm-hmm.
This was my time to shine. Hello, who's a scooper, who is a woke scooper, says Marvel Studios desperately attempts to steady its footing after years of declining box office returns and fan frustration. A new rumor threatens to derail the comeback before it even begins. According to Scooper My Time to Shine Hello, Wicked star Cynthia Erivo is being eyed to play Storm in the upcoming X-Men reboot, potentially one of the most important influential films in the next chapter of the MCU. I would say, if you're asking my opinion, the most. So this follows her own public campaigning for the role. In an interview with the National Board of Review, she called it a dream role. So here's what she had to say.
Is there another dream role out there that you want to manifest right here, right now?
I really want to play Storm. I know it sounds frivolous, but I think we haven't.
Look at those nails. Like you look like a cartoon witch. Like
I have
she
a
looks
reason.
like she looks like the witches from that movie, The Witches, where they take like the wigs off.
Or David Lopan.
They turn the kids into mice that they just tried to remake with Anne Hathaway. She looks like one of those witches.
I have a reason why they shouldn't cast her. I don't care that she says it's her dream role, because she goes, I know it sounds frivolous.
Exactly, Trish. I was gonna make that point. It's not her dream role. She's looking down on it. She just knows that it's a big role for big money. Here's the rest of what she said.
Uncovered how
I'm going to manifest right here, right now.
I really want to play Storm. I know it sounds frivolous, but I think we haven't uncovered how grand she is and all of that inner turmoil that she has. So I think there's a world in which we could, do something.
And
why would that be frivolous?
That goes to show you, because it's a comic book, and comic books are so lowbrow. Like she's the anti-Corin Sweat there. It's how grand she is. So that just tells you right there the way she would want to play her is she's the bestest ever. She's the best mutant ever, and not a flawed character like what we've gotten in most other good iterations of Storm. What a disaster this would be.
I don't know about aesthetics of Storm, but seeing as what I do know is, or at least I'm pretty sure it was Halle Berry, right?
Yeah.
Halle Berry, absolutely beautiful.
She's supposed to be hot.
Looks are subjective.
I could see her playing the Slender Man.
Well, I was going to say, listen, looks are subjective. I'll be fair here. She's unique looking. And to me, you can't go from Halle Berry. Lauren's laughing. She is, though. She's, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure someone thinks she's pretty. I don't, but I'm sure someone does. But
I'm going to put
Halle
you up for
Berry
the diplomatic tour.
It's like when going, I have a friend, she's very interesting. You can't go, like, to me, like, Halle Berry. It's Halle Berry. Like, Halle Berry looks like she hasn't aged a day. Like she's that level.
It's not that she looks like a witch. It looks like she crossed a witch and is now essentially bearing the results of that curse.
Oh my goodness.
I'm trying to be
I know you are. I'm
it.
trying to be honest. Stop trying to be nice. This lady, her opinion of herself is insufferable. You are not fit for this role. I'm sorry.
Oh, I agree. She's not fit for it.
What we have seen from her also is, I mean, she has attacked fans over imagined slights. I mean, you guys remember that stupid thing with the poster for that movie, right? When they hid her eyes,
yes,
she called it the wildest, most offensive thing she had ever seen, and said that they were trying to erase her, and that she made the choice to stare right down the barrel of the camera at you, the viewer. So her history suggests that instead of elevating the character, she would make the role all about herself. Something fans have already grown tired of after years of identity-first casting decisions that prioritize PR optics over storytelling. And at a time when Marvel desperately needs to reconnect with its base, choosing an actress with a track record of antagonizing the very people who buy tickets might be the studio's most baffling move yet. This is why I said that, because she stated that Elphaba's micro braids in Wicked were meant as a way to show what was underneath the green. I didn't want to remove myself from Elphaba. I wanted to connect the two. No one wants to see you. They want to see Elphaba. They want to see the Wicked Witch of the West. They want to see Storm. They don't want to see you. You are not that interesting.
That's funny because you had earlier said they were kind of floating Daniel Day-Lewis as a possibility for Magneto. His approach is so diametrically different from that he absorbs himself into the characters so he can portray the character, not people see Daniel Day-Lewis on screen.
This is how a narcissist goes to work, folks. She wants to make everything about Cynthia Erivo. She doesn't care about the story. She thinks Storm is frivolous. She just wants Cynthia Erivo in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's it. Because it's big money and it's fame. Could you imagine? Like this is the woman that T'Challa is supposed to fall in love with.
Look at this. There is something insectile here. I mean, look at the pose. It's almost the way I expect a praying mantis would sit. You know, it's like there's something unsettling, and that's not what you want from Storm. I'm not trying to be mean. I know Trish was saying in the chat that you don't want to go hard in on looks, and I understand that. I don't either.
And it could be a woman thing too, you know.
When you are playing an established character, and especially one who is supposed to be a queen and looked up to by her people, that is, I mean, you would gussy this up as conventional attractiveness, I think. But nobody is going to buy that Cynthia Erivo is Storm. I don't care what you try to do to put her in wardrobe, to give her a wig, whatever you're going to do. She looks 70 years old.
Her cheeks,
and it's not even just external. The ugliness is just all consuming because
that'll get on all day.
She
seems like she's awful.
She injects so much of herself into these roles and makes the roles herself that you can't help but see who she is. And who she is a vapid narcissist who thinks that the fact that she's black and half gay is the thing that makes her interesting. It's not a personality. We've seen it in every interview she did about Wicked, where she sat there and literally cried while Ariana Grande weirdly rubbed her hands. It's mind numbing. I can't freaking stand it. If she's Storm, then you guys are going to have to get Photon Empress in here to get me to go see this movie, because I have no desire to see her in anything. I will have to see her in the Wicked sequel because it's my wife's favorite thing now is Wicked. Other than that, I never want to see her in anything again.
See, for me, it's about personality, and it's about when you talk about looks, it's like you said Storm's supposed to be hot. Like, it was Halle Berry. Like, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things where it's like, you know, even if I'm trying to be nice, it doesn't mean that it's fitting.
And she has, in the theater world, she has a reputation of just being a wild, horrible jerk to the crew, to her fellow cast members that she deems below her. She is an elitist. And she is nowhere near. I honestly thought when I saw Snow White, my first thought was, why wasn't Rachel Zegler Elphaba? Because Rachel Zegler's voice would have been better for Elphaba than Cynthia Erivo's voice. I don't think she's a good singer at all. I don't like it at all.
I mean, I heard her, I thought she was fine, but
look at this woman. If she were moving, try to tell me that you don't imagine that there's some kind of a skittering sound or like bones somehow clacking together.
You know what? She looks like Trish. She looks like when Angel goes into that alternate dimension where Jasmine came from, that thing that calls him talky meat. Like, that's what she looks like if she had like an insect body under, like, from the waist down.
Stop it. I just
and look, if she was just a humble, nice person, I would never even notice her outward appearance because that would bleed through in her interviews.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to sit here and like guilt anybody. Like, you know, it's not my bag. You guys, you know, go at it with gusto, but it's just me, what I feel comfortable saying. But like at the same time, I can recognize like if something's not right. And I'm all day, every day. If she is a horrible person, then she's a horrible person and talk about that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to pull any punches with that for sure. Like, that's, to me, that's the biggest thing is like her saying it's frivolous is just the wrong attitude. That's the
She's
wrong
immediately
thing to
dismissive
take
of
into
it. immediately
and it's
dismissive of it.
one of two things is happening there. That's either how she actually feels and she's completely disingenuous, or to give her a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, she actually really does want to play Storm and actually really does feel like there's a lot there to mine with the character, but she is too worried about what other people in Hollywood and other actors may think about it. So she's couching it with, I know it sounds frivolous.
That's not actually the way that I read the quote. The way I hear it is that I think she does want the role, and I think that she's saying the idea of her being in it would be frivolous because it's just this flight of fancy that she has. I don't think that she was disparaging the medium, but
true.
It's that it's again one of those things where if you're just saying it off the cuff, if you're saying it as I would like to play this character, it would be fun to do, or it would be a dream of mine, that's one thing. But there has to be a little bit of self-awareness here about the role that you're playing, and is it appropriate for you? And that's where I think my offense is coming from this, is that what about Cynthia Erivo says anything about Storm? I don't see any overlap for those characters whatsoever. And so I do feel a little bit bad about beating up on her on this, but it's like, it's a self-awareness problem.
If they are actually considering Cynthia Erivo when this woman exists, Jade Cargill of the WWE, who they literally call the Storm because she looks like Storm. Like, come on. I don't care if she can act or not. She's Storm. That woman is Storm.
I mean,
am I wrong?
Especially with the hair.
Yeah.
And it's not unprecedented for the X-Men franchise. And what's his name? Who was Sabretooth in the first X-Men movie.
Yeah.
Is it Taylor or something?
Can't think of his name, but I know who you're talking about.
He was a wrestler, right?
Yeah. And, you can have, if you've got a strong ensemble, you can have lesser known, lesser experienced people that the old pros are bouncing off of, and it still works.
Yeah.
Look at Gina Carano in Mandalorian. She has a lot less experience than most of the people in the scene she's with. It works fine.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because the character is so well defined. And with Storm, there's plenty of definition to go around. I think Jade Cargill would be an inspired choice if they had the guts to do it. And I think it would bring in a pretty large male audience. All right, we got to get to some super chats, and then we got to end because I got to head over to the Pro Show for the Lilo and Stitch review, which we are going to be redirecting you guys over there when we are done. So Maddie for $1.99 says, Ahsoka? I never even met her. That's a good one. Mike Glass for $5 says the lead singer isn't going to be happy that you keep showing that clip of Pascal dancing with a certain song. He's over at the Tooney Talk Wrestling. No, it's all right. I'll take that one. Don't worry. Dragon Queen for $5 is as someone who loves Thrawn, favorite Star Wars character, I don't appreciate what they did with him. I don't think anyone does.
Nope, not a bit.
No.
Lauren, at the end of Martin, at the end of the day, you cannot write a character who is smarter than you.
And the thing is, I put nothing at Lars Mikkelsen's feet here. I think that he has the right voice. I think he's a great actor. It's not his fault. It is absolutely how they wrote him.
Yep. Oh, I love his voice for Thrawn. It's exactly how I always imagined Thrawn to sound when I read the books.
It's funny, though, when I heard it was going to be Lars Mikkelsen, in my mind, it just overrode as Mads Mikkelsen, and I thought, that's an inspired voice.
I heard Mads Mikkelsen, too.
For me, I always imagined Thrawn's voice as flat and emotionless, almost monotone. And I got that from, he makes a cameo in the audio drama for Dark Forces Soldier for the Empire. And it's a very short piece, but I loved what that actor who played him in the audio drama did with him. And that's always been the Thrawn voice for me. But I like Lars's take too.
Yeah. Rabid Wolverines LC Killer 17, remember for 4 months, says I always wanted a rated R Darth Vader movie. I have always thought that if you adapted the Darth Vader comics, it would actually be a really cool show. But I also don't think that you should overuse Darth Vader. Making him the main character in his own show, I think, exposes him and gives them too much time to screw it up.
I think that's the problem. Vader is the shark in Jaws. You want him for a couple of minutes that are scary, but if you keep putting him on the screen, he doesn't retain that mystery. You don't actually want a full-length Vader movie.
Absolutely. Sean, artist formerly known as John, says Trish said to be cool, you need an album cover picture. So
technically, I said you do you, Sean. Is technically what I said. But I mean, look at the cover he picked. No, he's obviously cool.
True, it is pretty cool.
Yes.
Andre Adams, member for 3 months, says race swap equals hot garbage.
Directed to the point.
Yep. Liquid Fox for $2 Canadian says Jade Cargill should be Storm, not Skeletor.
I wasn't even going to joke. I seriously was about to ask, who's considering her for Skeletor?
Evil. Andre Adams for $4.99 says I can tell by Cynthia's front teeth that she's a rodent in human cosplay. Oh my goodness.
Andre
Adams is
I
he's
can't
the
with
roast master.
you.
He is the Tooney Town roast master. I swear to God, I love it. Mike Glass for $5 says Kevin is afraid to show up because he knows that I'm unhappy about the disrespect he showed to Nirvana.
I didn't
on
see
Tooney
that.
Talk Wrestling.
What was that about?
I don't remember. I don't remember him saying anything about
Oh,
Nirvana.
I'm gonna
But
have to
I'm
go-
sure I'm sure it happened.
Yeah, it sounds like something that would happen.
Maddie for $1.99 says Cynthia could play Jack Skellington in The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Actually.
It's inspired casting. Anthony J for $2 says cast Jade Cargill as Storm, problem solved. See, I'm not the only one who thinks this.
You know your audience.
Andre Adams for $4.99 says Cynthia Erivo ends every conversation with "until we meet again."
So a threat?
she does no she does seem like that, right? Like she seems like that kind of person.
I'll get you next time, Gadget.
Next time.
That's what I thought.
Liquid Fox for $5 Canadian says spooky scary skeletons trying to fly in the sky. Spooky scary skeletons. Wait a sec, is that a guy? I care not for the wicked, pun intended.
Spooky, scary skeletons.
All bee booty bees and bacon with big bees for $2 says my girlfriend says Cynthia Erivo is one ugly bee. Liquid Fox for $2 Canadian says, by the way, Team Angel,
Liquid Fox.
that theme song is a banger.
Liquid Fox hasn't even seen this. He admitted to this ages ago. He was like, I just know what my sister said about Xander, and I would say things the opposite to annoy them. I remember Liquid Fox. I'm like an elephant. I remember this stuff. So he's just
The Angel theme song is a banger. That cello.
It is a good theme song.
Darling Violetta is the artist. What is My Sanctuary is the name of the song. Look it up, guys. It's good. Maddie for $1.99 also says Cynthia can play Vermin in Spider-Man. Master Splinter and Turtles, maybe.
One of the Morlocks, not Morlocks, with the X-Men, the one with the Scorpion.
One of the Morlocks in the Time Machine. Yes. There's a reference for you. Yes, the Morlocks of the X-Men.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see
They
it.
were called Morlocks? Okay.
They were called Morlocks, yes. But she also looks like the ones from the Time Machine, which were these little like ugly creatures.
Yes.
All right, guys, that does it for this week. Lauren, I know you're reading a new book over on your channel. Tell the fine folks where they can find out more about what you're up to.
Yeah, I started the second book in the X-Wing series. It's called Wedge's Gamble. You can find me on my YouTube channel at Lauren Connor 9030. You can find me at X on Lauren Connor. You can find me on Pro Streams frequently. You can find me here on Thursdays, and I'm at the Genre Guys on Saturdays when we record, and I'm not sure when they put them up.
Absolutely. Martin Stone, tell the folks where they can find out more about what you're up to.
Well, I am one of the Lost Guys with Trish, Hangry Table, and Nolan Thunder, who is usually here, but not today. Yesterday, we just released over on T3PO one of our favorite episodes, the Power Rangers movie. That's on the...
Nolan had to have loved that.
Oh, yeah. He totally geeked out. That's the free side.
Feared, globally reviled, universally despised. I love Ivan Ooze.
Yeah. And it's the most money anybody's ever spent on Power Rangers.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You know, I was this years old when I realized that Ivan Ooze is the bad guy from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, I think you were the one in telling me that. Or maybe
Yeah.
Hangry brought it up in that stream.
Paul Freeman?
Yes.
What?
Yes. Paul Freeman is the villain in the Power Rangers movie. Yes. He's Ivan Ooze.
That disappoints me.
Oh, he's excellent in the role. I mean, he's so good at it.
We should do an episode on movies or roles that are great in bad movies.
Yes.
Oh, first has got to be M. Bison. I got to go with that one.
Oh, it was Tuesday.
It was a Tuesday. So
I
good.
feel like I hear that reference a lot.
Yeah, because we've been playing it a lot on TPP in the Pro Show.
Why? Okay.
Yeah.
So that was the free release on T3PO yesterday. Normally there'd be a release for tomorrow, but we just weren't able to record on Monday. So we're going to double up this week and get back on schedule.
Yep. All right, Trish, anything you got to plug?
Martin hit Lost Guys. Here, you know.
Yep.
Here.
We know where to find you.
Carrying on my music chatter in the chat.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys, make sure you're checking out the channel. We're posting new videos again, so please give it some love. Make sure, as Pro likes to say, stick it to that algorithm. Let them know that you guys are enjoying the Tooney Town content. Give it a like, give it a share. Make sure you're still subscribed and that YouTube is not unsubscribing you, because that does happen. All right. We are sending you over to the Pro Show, already in progress. I will be over there in 2 shakes. From all of us here at the Tooney Town channels, I'm Marvin the Movie Monster. Now get out of here!
Now, Betty the Platypus, feel the wrath of my thank you-inator!
Thank you, you piece of trash.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you! Oh, I suppose you want me to say thank you. Well, you know what? Saying thank you is like jobbing.
Thank you!
I got a little message. Thank you. Ooh, yeah.
Oh, thank you! Oh, thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you!
Thanks? For what?
Hi-ho from all of us here at Tooney Town. Thank you.
And viewers like you. Thank you.